meeting is being recorded.
We are all officially on the record. So Sarah has been so patient. Robert's going to introduce her, but we have tried to bring her to you guys as our Faces Behind the Mission nonprofit spotlight 3 times. November, we had technical issues. Last month, everything went long and we couldn't give her the time it deserved. So we said we were going to open today with her 5 minutes, her Faces Behind the Mission spotlight. Robert, give us a little bit of her background.
Sure. So thank you, Sarah, for being such a good sport. But Sarah, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce your name because it has more letters than my last name, Boo. So, but Sarah has been an social impact leader, founder and president of Necessities for Children, a nonprofit whose mission is to provide support and intervention through engaging STEM computer science programs to low-income youth, resulting in academic advancement, entrepreneurial, career, and job readiness skills. Sarah is a dedicated leader with experience working for corporate companies in Canada and the US with over 20 years of business, 6 years of nonprofit leadership, and she is just an absolutely fabulous, wonderful, kind person for being so patient. And so, Sarah, let me pass it over to you so you can educate us on Necessities for Children, because you are the faces behind the mission.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Raylyn, and to each of you. It is a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity and hopefully be able to share something that will provide value to you as well. So today, so I am the president and founder of Necessities for Children. The other thing, as a side note, I'm also the president of United Nations Broward chapter. So can flip to that at any point if anyone has any questions regarding the United Nations. But today I just want to share an intro to our programs and some interesting statistics. So may I share the screen? I share the screen. There I am. Okay, here. Okay. So just to bear with me, there we go. So I'm going to just give you a few statistics as to our focus and necessities for children. Technology is the #1 area in job growth, and yet computer science was only introduced into the curriculum of public school systems in 2012. In Florida, actually, Code.org reports that only 38% of high schools even teach computer science. And in computer science, there is 3 areas. There's coding, there's robotics, and there's cybersecurity. The cybersecurity has gotten the least amount of attention in public schools. And in fact, research shows that STEM identity, which is an interest in computer science and STEM, starts to decline perhaps as early as grade 5. So if we're not doing enough to educate our youth, especially, like I said, in the #1 area of job growth. So as we look at that, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics Information Security Analysis outlook, cybersecurity jobs are among the fastest growing nationally. It's predicted that cybersecurity jobs will grow by 31% through 2029. There is a reported 0% unemployment rate by cybersecurity ventures in 2016. That's projected to remain consistent. And in 2021, there were over 500,000 unfilled cybersecurity jobs in the US alone, and up to 4 million globally. So taking another aspect, there's certainly the job aspect, but then we talk about the online security aspect. Children are accessing the internet at a very young age, often unsupervised, and will spend long hours using electronic devices to socialize. This has even been more exacerbated with the pandemic. In fact, in 2018, Pew Internet and American Life survey, there was a survey that said 95% of teens have access to a cell phone, 45% are online almost constantly. And one of the scariest stats is that out of 50 states, Florida is ranked #3 in human trafficking in the US. So that was in 2019. Another study talks about the attitudes and behaviors of young people. When you talk about solicitation and exposure, the rates that young people are sharing and taking nudes, as well as resharing and receiving intimate images of others, is increasing. Sexting is becoming viewed as normal, and coercion plays a critical role, with the risk to 9 to 12-year-old victims increasing. On average, research shows that a child gets a cell phone by 10 years old. 40% of children have chatted with a stranger online, and 11% have met that stranger in person. So again, like I said, we're touching in on specifically the cybersecurity area. As I get into the different programs that we offer, one of the ones that we started off with is the number 1 and number 4 on this page, which is the Let's Launch Rockets and Unplugged Coding. Our programs do range from elementary, middle to high school, depends on which specific program. In particular, if you look at the last one, the Unplugged Coding, what that is where a child will learn the computational skills, how to think like a computer. For example, there was a grade 2 class, we were playing a coding game using cards and these little cars, and afterwards I asked the children what they learned, and one of the girls, she said she learned kindness. So as you know, in business and in our jobs, it's computer science. It's not just a coding. It's not just a robotics. It's being able to think like a computer and not just having that one skill. I mentioned the cyber safety and cyber security. This is really a key area that we have been focusing on, not just for that middle school and high school, but also for the elementary. Last year, we did an initial cyber safety day that targeted grade 3 youth. We had over 2,100 grade 3 youth in Broward, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach participate in cyber safety education. And we also run an 8-week program that is for middle school and high school teens. So that's what I want to share. One of the key things I want to share with everyone here today is that this upcoming 8-week program is going to be online, and we will be able to offer it to anyone, any youth that you have or that may be interested in participating, and or any groups as well here in Broward. So I want to go to some of the results and outcomes, the 21st century essential skills, transferable skills, hands-on projects, and then the special guest speakers. The one area where we have been unique and how we make our program unique is the first portion of our class is the education, but then the second portion we bring in experts to share their journey, to share their stories. For example, in the Rocket program, we had a gentleman, he wanted to be an astronaut, and he was in university and got disqualified due to medical issues. So he was sharing with the youth how his dream is just shattered, and but now he gets to run the International Space Center from Earth, and he was so excited, and it was just so cool to see the kids. When you have a dream or you have a vision as to what you want to do, and then how you just have to adjust your way along it. So our key partners for the programs are the after-school providers, youth service programs, parks and recreation. We have worked with YMCA recently. That was with the YMCA of South Florida. That was for the 8-week program that we delivered to middle school and high school. And we're just starting to work with a couple school districts as well as individual schools. So, encourage you to reach out. Like I said, I'm all about collaboration. I believe we're stronger together. So I hope to hear from you. And I wonder if anyone has any questions before we close.
Hey, Sarah, Mike Goldstein, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Anytime you need some help or a speaker, you could reach out to me.
Thank you, thank you.
I did one of Sarah's night programs, and actually the Humana bike finally arrived last month.
Fabulous.
So Sarah, you'll put the information about the free 8-week class for youth, the STEM class, you'll put that in the chat and we'll be able to send that out?
Yes, the dates haven't been confirmed on that because we're just finalizing with another group. So may I follow up with you when we do have those dates and we can send it out? And then again, like I said, I'll put my information in the chat again. Feel free to reach out, as we continue to serve you through the STEM education and providing that essential awareness and education for youth.
And I saw what Glenn popped in the chat about collaboration and connections. Michael just made the offer. Deanna from 4 Kids of South Florida, chimed in. Anytime there's a topic presented of Faces Behind the Mission, we want to try to look for partnerships and collaborations and way to further spread the word. So Deanna, maybe you and Sarah should talk offline after this and see if there's any connection there. But if no one has questions, any questions before we move on? It is a quiet group today. What is happening? It's because Robert Boo is Dolores. That's what's throwing everything off today, right?
And I have been muting people as they come in, just to make sure. So if you want to talk, unmute yourself.
And I will say that, LAN has participated in a bunch of cyber for kids type programs that are out there. We recently were on, in October, Broward County's partner university, parent university. And I was thoroughly impressed, at least what Broward County Public Schools was pushing out. And not only did they discuss all the things that Sarah brought up, but they had on, local Broward police officers to talk about, utilization of social media. They also had an assistant attorney general come on there to kind of say, hey, if you pop that bomb scare piece in there, this is what could happen. So we've seen that. We've also seen that in Palm Beach County, as well as some of the chamber functions. So we've seen it as a big push out there.
And Sarah, I heard you say Florida's #3 in human trafficking. Is that youth or just across human trafficking?
It's across the board. It's not just youth. And the other thing about that statistic is it's not just sex trafficking. It's also labor. And but yes, out of 50 states, Florida is ranked 3rd, and it's unbelievably scary because and kids who don't know, and they're groomed from such a young age. And it's like my sister, I've got 11-year-old nieces, and she says the program, it's a little bit, they're not quite old enough. And one of our guest speakers, he said, if a child is old enough to have a cell phone, they're old enough to have this information. And the other point that I made to my sister is it may not be her kids, but it may be their friends or other situations that they hear about that they're then able to say, hey, you should tell somebody, or that doesn't sound right. So it's so critical that we give our kids the education and the information that they need. And it's not just to scare them, but it's also, there's amazing job opportunities in that sector.
Good morning. My name is Roche from Broward Mom Collective, and I would just like to give a special thanks to Mr. Glenn Benjamin and his team for inviting us to this nonprofit and sharing about the entire organization and having us join the chamber. It has been very, very exciting for us to learn and to be welcomed into the chamber family. So I just wanted to share that information.
And how do you pronounce your name again?
Rafia.
Rafia, that's beautiful. Well, welcome. We're happy to have you, and Glenn and the folks at LAN. Thank you very much for bringing in another wonderful person to work with us. So you guys, we want to talk now. We're going to switch gears, Robert. Yes? Let's switch
No
gears.
orange juice, but right, Raylan, no orange
Oh,
juice.
David Reese, don't even start. We do not have time for orange juice today. We have 3 great panelists. I'm going to do some quick introductions for our panel. We have Mr. Jerry Zarnecki, Mr. Kirk Brown, and Mr. Michael Goldstein. So we are going to talk today about cryptocurrency, what the heck it really is, using it as a donation platform, and some of the risks and warnings that are out there. So first of all, let me introduce Jerry Zarnecki. Jerry, where are you? I've lost you in my squares. There you are. I should see the library behind him. Okay, you guys, Jerry, I'll end with my disclaimer. Jerry is the chairman and CEO of the Deltenium Group. It's a consulting practice focused on board governance and managerial leadership, so board governance and leadership. He has a fascinating C-suite career. He has been a bank CEO for many, many years. He's led retail, aviation, and television production companies. He worked at IBM. He worked in Hawaii for, I don't know, as a bank CEO for 8 years, Jerry. So he had that wonderful experience. His bio and resume is this long, and full disclosure, here's my disclaimer. He is the founder and chairman of the board for National Leadership Institute, my organization. And if you're asking why is he the crypto guy to explain what it is, it's because he was talking to me about crypto before it even became this thing that we saw in Super Bowl ads. He was talking about it long before it became this trend and this fad and this quickly growing nonprofit donation platform. So Jerry, welcome. you are going to be our big picture explainer guy. How's that for a setup? The explainer guy. You're muted. Jerry, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
I got it. I'm done. Everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to start out by giving you a little different perspective on my bio. And I'm going to say that I really am an economist by graduate education, a CPA by accident, and that's a very long story,
I left that out, by the way.
a banker by professional career, a technologist by necessity, an eclectic reader by curiosity, a news junkie by addiction, and an investor informed by all of the above. Now, why did I say all of that? Well, because it starts, all of this journey in my journey with crypto starts back in 2010. I read an article about a Florida man, I don't even know his name, who negotiated to have 2 Papa John pizzas valued at $25 delivered for the price of 10,000 Bitcoin back in May of 2010. That made the price of Bitcoin back then 0.0025 cents. He piqued my interest. That eclectic reading thing of mine got me fascinated. And so I started reading about this thing called Bitcoin back in 2010. It's important for me to note that I spent a lot of time reading about Bitcoin. Intellectually, I was up to my eyeballs believing in it. Part of it was because I'm an economist and because I'm a monetarist at my heart. The whole notion of a currency like Bitcoin was fascinating to me. It wasn't until 2017, 7 years later, after all of the talk, all of the curiosity, I actually bought a Bitcoin. Now, when I talked about that 0.0025 cents value at Bitcoin, when I bought my first Bitcoin, I paid $11,000 for it. I actually talked about buying Bitcoin 4 years earlier, and had I bought it 4 years earlier, I would have bought it for $380 instead of $11,000. The fact is that even though I believed in it, I didn't completely understand it. And it took me a while to get my head wrapped around it. It also took me a while to have the courage to go invest in it. So let me talk a little bit about what I think you need to know about Bitcoin, or for that matter, cryptocurrency in general. But I use Bitcoin as the benchmark because Bitcoin is really the first of these cryptocurrencies that started the entire cascading environment we feel today. It started with a paper written by a guy by the name, or let me say it this way, written by somebody by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, the reason I say somebody is because we have no idea who that somebody was. It is one of the big mysteries. This person or persons, group or whatever, wrote a paper back in 2009 called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And it's a relatively short paper, and you can actually pick it up off the web and you can read it. And most of it you won't understand, but enough of it you will understand to understand where it really is. And I want to stress that this thing that is called Bitcoin is basically founded on this core concept of peer-to-peer network. And the thing that I want to point out to you is that peer-to-peer network that Satoshi gave us started a revolution called a thing called blockchain. And the blockchain concept, based on this notion of peer-to-peer, is a critical component of what Bitcoin is all about. And in fact, what most cryptos are all about, most of this cryptocurrency that's out there today. And what it really is it's a computer system, and I'm going to use non-technical language, which Michael will clearly correct when he gets to qualify my incompetence here as a technologist. But it is really basically a version of a computer system that rejects the idea that there needs to be a central authority. In essentially all computer systems that most of us are familiar with, there is this computer here that sits as the central authority. It is the computer that sets the rules, the ground rules, and things flow through that central authority. Decision-making is there, and whatever else happens in the network out there of other computers connected to it, they all relate back to the central authority. In the case of a peer-to-peer network, it means that they literally are peers. The computers that are talking to each other are peers, and there is no central authority. The only central authority is the democratized process of decision-making that comes out of peers deciding things. And the blockchain process is based largely on this concept of peer-to-peer computing. And what we have here in this cryptocurrency world is a digital version of a currency. So it talks in Sashimoto talked about it as a cash system. He created a currency, we call it Bitcoin, and that currency resides out on this peer-to-peer network. And the peer-to-peer network is decided upon in the algorithms that were baked into the original concept that is in that document I mentioned. The network out there basically says that whoever do a transaction, if you have a Bitcoin and you transfer the Bitcoin to somebody else, it's recorded in this peer-to-peer network out there, and it's immutable. It's there and it can't be changed. And so the transaction flows from one person to another, one organization to another. And that Bitcoin process out there is a transactional process that it was designed as a way to handle transactions. It's pretty darn slow. It at maximum looks like it does around 7 transactions a second, which is in the world of transaction processing, incredibly slow. Credit cards operate in the world of 20-odd thousand transactions per second. So when you use a credit card and you do a transaction, the Zippo speed with which it operates is significantly faster than when doing a Bitcoin transaction. So Bitcoin transactions are slow and cumbersome, but they are, quote, immutable. They cannot be changed. You can't reverse a Bitcoin transaction. And by the way, once you have the address of that transaction out there, you and only you are the one who can get to it. So that if the Bitcoin is bought by you and owned, it's owned digitally, and you know where it is in the network. In fact, everybody who's on the network knows that somebody bought it and how much it was paid for, et cetera, and how it was paid for. But it sits out there in an immutable state until you decide to sell it to somebody else, or gift it for that matter. And that process is what is the key to this blockchain technology. It means that it's out there throughout all of the peers so that any peer can see it, any peer can know what's out there, any peer can know that what the address is, that they just can't get to it because they don't have access to that address. And its cryptology is that it is coded so that you cannot get to it. It requires the cryptocurrency, if you will, to be managed by the owner of that particular currency out there. All of this started this revolution. For me, as an investor, I was fascinated with it because this guy or person or persons, whoever it may be, Nakamoto, said it's going to be limited to 21 million of these things. He kept a couple of million for himself, I might add, or themselves, whoever they are. But there can't be any more than 21 million of them out there. And the reason that fascinated me is because I believe that printing presses and currencies go wild, just like ours does in the United States. And I thought it was a fascinating potential for being able to control the currency so that this currency, Bitcoin, could not be inflated. Now, that statement in and of itself sounds absurd because, as you heard already, Bitcoin has traded for as much as 2.0025 cents, all the way up to a maximum of $68,000 a few months ago. It's now down, as of this morning, it was down to a little over $41,000. It's taken a huge bet. It is a wild ride, and it's a world of speculation. And anybody who understands Bitcoin needs to understand that if you take a Bitcoin today, you have no idea what it's going to be worth tomorrow.
So Jerry, I want to jump in here because I want to make sure I didn't get a chance to introduce Kirk and Michael yet, but I want to jump in here and just do a little bit of a 101 on what you just said. And you correct me if I'm wrong. So when I was researching this, trying to understand cryptocurrency and to put it in this platform, it's basically a digital form of money, but it's more commodity or property than cash, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, a digital, first of all, money is nothing more than a medium of exchange or a store of value. And so in my mind, when I looked at this Bitcoin, I thought it'd be an interesting store of value. It is a medium of exchange. You can use it as if it's cash. So if somebody gives you a Bitcoin, you have a Bitcoin valued at whatever the market thinks it's worth at any moment in time. And so today it happens to be worth $41,000. A few months ago it was worth 68. Tomorrow it could be worth $10,000. It's a wild speculative world we're living in with the cryptocurrency today. But it can be used as a currency. People can buy things with it. And so they can, in fact, contribute a cryptocurrency to you as a not-for-profit. They can contribute a Bitcoin, and it may be worth $10,000 the day they contribute it. And the day you decide that you're going to use it for some purpose to buy something else, it could be worth $1,000. It is that wild ride.
And we have a nonprofit that's joining us today because he is going to talk about what they are doing. They are accepting cryptocurrency as a donation. They're going to, Kirk, I see you on my Hollywood Square. I want to jump in with you. But so Jerry, just to wrap that up, and we'll come back to you in a little bit. I read that there's more than 30 million Americans currently buying and trading cryptocurrency, and that businesses like PayPal, Xbox, and Tesla are accepting it as a form of payment right now. So it's becoming more and more mainstream. But right now, the interesting transition has been making it a donation platform. And Kirk, I see you down there. For me, you're in the bottom left. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Kirk Brown from Handy. Handy is a nonprofit dedicated to the education and betterment of marginalized and at-risk youth in South Florida. He's been leading the organization for more than 4 years, and he is a management professional with more than 17 years experience working with a broad range of companies, governmental and nonprofit organizations. Kirk, that's a quick summary for all that you do. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. And, you know, for those who are visually affected by the fact that my shirt looks like I'm in a disco, I don't know what's going on with the camera in this shirt. Some of my favorite people are on here, so I'll make this very quick. Why did we get involved? Jerry, you hit the nail on the head on a couple of things on why we got involved. I was literally, and I tell my wife all day I'm basic cable. I was literally just sitting down with some 20-year-olds, 20 to 35-year-olds, all techies, guys who just, you know, on their laptops all day, they work from their home in their pajamas, no pun intended. And so they were just talking about cryptocurrency, and they were so excited that this thing belonged to their generation. And as a clinician myself, a therapist, I am listening to the thought process and the logic principle behind it. And I realize that our philanthropic methods is archaic to this group. So one of the things that we have to do as a nonprofit is to meet the donor where they are. And so I went to a couple of cryptocurrency presentations. Note to the wise, I have on here things to warn the other nonprofit community about. Everyone thinks they're a crypto expert, okay? It's please filter your experts before you go to 9 different meetings and go, well, I could have just gone to 2. And so met with some individuals, had a couple groups present to myself and the executive team about their platforms. The Giving Block is the platform that won for us. And the reason why they won is because they could answer all of the tax questions for me, because at the end of the year, I still have to make sure my auditors are happy. So I made sure that our auditors researched the platform that we chose, made sure we were able to automize and immediately send out, the tax receipts that are necessary. And at the end of the year, I won't be answering some crazy questions, no matter what Congress does around something they're still trying to figure out themselves, right? And so that is one of the things that we did first. We started on a Tuesday and we had $10,000 by the Friday. The cryptocurrency can come from anywhere, from any donor in the world. And that's what was attractive to me. In addition to that, I don't have to get in my car and do a presentation to a lot of people. Now let's talk about the people. Jerry, you hit the nail on the head when you talk about the mystery of cryptocurrency and the person who owns the coins. This is not like your regular philanthropic marketplace. These are 25 to 52-year-olds who don't want you to know their name. They don't even want you to know they exist. That's why they're on their, what is it called, Jerry, where everyone can see everyone going back and forth on their given, right? On that thing.
The donor scroll. The donor scroll.
They're all Bitmojis. Like, they are avatars, okay? Mystery and secrecy about their giving is one of the things that really appeals to them. So marketing to them, you will have to be let into the marketplace to even market on their platform. So there's a different PR marketing group as it relates to PR marketing to cryptocurrency owners. That's one of the lessons learned. The other lessons learned for us while analyzing the market for 8 months before I evaluated any of the 3 entities that presented to us was about, one day it's 5,000, the next day it's 50 cents. So in our decision making to choose the Giving Block, I wanted an immediacy turnaround at the point that a coin was given to us. I wanted, if it was given at 4:01, that was the number one question I asked them, and the Giving Block won, the time difference. If I get a donation at 4 p.m., how quickly can you convert that to cash and send it into my account? And they quoted me 10 minutes, and I was like, yay. Conversion immediately, because that marketplace is very volatile. I'm not saying you can't hold on to your coins in your business structure, but for our business structure, I just don't want coins that were donated at 16,000 get on my books as a donation for 16,000, and then again I have to change my books to $500 when it falls. And so that volatility, that was a recommendation from our CPAs and from our auditing group. What has the reaction been from donors and the community? For my donors that are older than 50, no pun intended for anyone here that's older than 50, it became an informational session around that age group, around cryptocurrency. So I walk into the room now with the CPA for those donors who already have their financial portfolio, they actually have cryptocurrency in there somewhere, for the CPA to explain to them how to donate that portion, right? For my donors younger than 50, they're stoked. They're excited. They want to know how can they buy some just to give us some, just so they could go into the marketplace, play around for good. The other part that I've learned, Jerry, is the value of NFTs and joining entities that are doing social good NFTs before their launch, so you can get named as a nonprofit of choice on the back end of the NFT. I think that's called minting, right, Jerry?
Right.
And so that is what I've learned from this marketplace. My qualification is that I'm a nerd. I read a lot, but at the end of the day, I have to figure out how to take homeless kids from our streets and put them into post-secondary existence for them to replace us. So I have to exhaust, and I'm using the word I, because if I mention to anyone outside that door, my executive team, that they have to learn cryptocurrency, they might quit. That's the other part. It really doesn't gel well with the regular, development team or marketing or PR and to people that you've already, everyone's learning it. And so I have to figure out how we can appeal to this new marketplace, which is here, because we're seeing the evolution of the monetary exchange. Was that fast enough, really?
That was excellent. I have so many questions here, and anyone in the group, put your questions in chat. We will get to them. But so Kirk, one thing you said to me when we talked last month, when you agreed to be part of the panel for us, you said that, you were getting these little surprises, people that had cryptocurrency accounts and had no connection to Handy. They may not even live in South Florida. And these $100, $200 donations were just popping up out of nowhere. So it's a completely new donor database that was untouched prior to cryptocurrency donations being accepted when you made that choice. And it also, if I'm understanding you and Jerry correctly, it opens it up to a national playing field, because the Chronicle of Philanthropy's latest story says there aren't that many nonprofits out there actually accepting it yet. It's not that big. So crypto users are looking for folks like Handy to donate to play around with the technology. Is that what you're seeing?
That's what I'm seeing. And I'm also seeing a lot of what we call crypto gods reach out in a very cryptic way, right, Deanna? They reach out in a very cryptic way, because everyone on the back of their mind is going, what if this thing crashes, right? I don't want to tell the entire world that I have a big bulk of crypto. So they reach out in a very cryptic way. And in the middle of the conversation, they're like, oh, we just want to give you crypto. And I'm like, okay, great. But it's this type of crypto. I'm like, I don't care. There's 3,000 plus of you. But I will put a caution out there. There is, like any other marketplace, there is the NFT for a fart in a sandwich bag going around. There is the NFT for NFT. You have to really, if anyone calls you and say they want to put you on side of an NFT, you have to really want to know upfront exactly what the NFT item will be. Because as a nonprofit, our reputation is all we have, right? And so you want to make sure you're not on, for example, someone's making a song and they want to make it into an NFT and have Handy be the nonprofit arm on the minting section, right? If the song is about killing people, we might not want to be there, right? So we want, and there's a secrecy behind the NFT that they don't want to share it outside of 3 or 4 people what the item will be before the release, because that's what makes NFT. The secrecy behind it is what makes it like a valuable piece of art, right, Jerry? Am I summarizing that effectively?
That's right. And, it's important to keep in mind, NFTs exist and are available in the marketplace today because of the blockchain, not because of cryptocurrency per se, but because of the blockchain technology that underlies the cryptocurrency. So they're related, but they're related because of the underlying technology of blockchain. And so that's important. I also want to add one other thing as counsel, and that is, keep in mind the fact that if somebody wants to give you crypto, there's probably a gain baked into that crypto. And the reason they're trying to give it to you at the moment they're doing it is because they're saying, I want to take this gain and use it as a tax deduction when I can use the maximum value of the crypto. So what Kurt said about making sure he can liquefy that crypto the moment he gets it is related to their concerns. They want to max out at the highest price that they've got, and they want to take that gain and use it as a tax deduction. What they want to be able to do is take it and maximize that. He wants to make sure that he doesn't have a note that goes out and says, you gave me $10,000 worth of crypto, and then finds out that he liquidated it and it turned out to be $5,000. So, because now he books a loss. And so as a practical matter, it's really important to understand that cryptocurrency today is volatile, very volatile in valuation.
Jerry, it's very important to me. I wish my board was on here to hear you agree with my strategy. I greatly appreciate that.
Remember, Kirk, this is being recorded.
Maybe you two should talk offline too. Thank you, David Reese. Okay, so Michael Goldstein, you're here with us too. Kirk, I had a couple more questions for you. We're going to come back to you. But Michael, we just kind of started talking, alluded to safety, stability, security, cyber risks. This is your area, your bag of tricks. For those who don't know, Michael Goldstein is the president and CEO of Land Infotech. They are a trusted IT partner for law firms, nonprofit organizations, healthcare companies. He is a trustee member of the Fort Lauderdale Chamber. He is the, I believe, council chair for the technology group. He's our go-to guy when we need to talk about cyber safety and cybersecurity and all things IT. Michael, what's your take on this as a nonprofit donation type?
I will tell you, from the time we started talking at 9:30 till just now, crypto went up 5 grand and dropped 2. So, you know, as you watch it, it's very volatile. It's out there. But needless to say, you know, as you look at that, you know, I track, you know, the market opened at 10, and, you know, great day, Microsoft's up 6 points. So I just kind of view that as you look at that, and my gauge to a lot of the market is just follow Zoom. You know, Zoom last year was close to over 500. You know, today it opened up at 109. So, you know, anything that you're investing in or going out there, because a lot of the people that are kind of dabbling in crypto, you know, go out there, and it is extremely volatile. And, you know, the 2 speakers before were perfect. You know, Kirk, it's great. You got to dump it right away, because in reality, you know, you look at it, and for a long time, it took the IRS a while to figure out, you know, from some of these exchanges, because remember, you got to turn this into cash. It has to come to a bank. How do you report that? And in some of these exchanges, you know, the IRS is looking at as property versus pure cash that goes out there. So you really have to look, as you're accepting these, you know, what basis you're going to go in, and then how you're going to report that. So Kurt, it's great that you figured that out. There's fees involved in it. And really, you know, I still view it as the currency, the currency of the criminals. That's my view of it, only because that's how we get involved in it. You know, you could buy Bitcoin, you know, about a year and a half ago, we were doing, probably pre-pandemic, we were doing an event down in downtown Miami. And I just happened to notice that as I went into one of the buildings, at the corner there was like this nasty looking smoke shop that I would probably never go in to buy stuff in there, and a giant sign, buy Bitcoin here. So you got to be careful where you go. And remember, just like brands of cars, there are different types of things. And when Jerry and Kirk talk Bitcoin, the main brand, there's a lot of different markets that are out there to go. So you have to really pick and choose what you do. The biggest worry to us is, as I think, you know, Jerry led to, accepting that donation, making sure that there's nothing tied to it. And as Kirk brought up, these new pieces that you might see called NFTs and non-fungible token. So as an example, to put the high-end thing, Derek Jeter, Tom Brady, all these guys have now turned around and they don't want to sign anything anymore, because now they have these cool little NFT offerings. So instead of, you know, behind me, I got signed pucks, balls, you know, next to me, I probably have 30 baseballs. The new collector is looking to buy something as an NFT that's unique to, I hate Tom Brady, but I'll use him as the example, a Tom Brady piece that's a digital piece of art. You know, I have a big, you know, 1960s and 70s collections of baseball cards. You know, years ago, the baseball card people tried to go digital. Well, now with the NFTs, so again, you can't just go out and buy it, and there's always some baggage that's put to you. You can go out and buy it, but your only advantage to buying it is know when it comes out and buy it at that time. So you have to be careful with the toys that are there. If there's a business case like we're talking here, listen, Red Cross put up some case studies. You know, one of the biggest sets of donations that they've gotten, because they're worldwide. In some other countries, it's the standard form of currency. The interesting piece, and just to put, you know, this, and I'll just talk about cyber, with everything that's happening in the Ukraine and looking out there, you look at everything that we just turned off on Russia. They can't use SWIFT accounts, so they can't transfer between banks. They can't use Apple Pay. They can't use credit cards. We've seen in the past 2-3 weeks a huge increase in ransomware to go out there to kind of hit all of us that are in place there. And that's because they could still accept cryptocurrency. So, and you haven't seen a large name brand company in the past 10 days, I don't want to curse myself saying that, of a big ransomware piece. They're keeping it all under. We've had 10 to 12 small clients, probably smaller than a lot of you guys that are here, and some of them larger, that just got hit out of nowhere. So, that's why I kind of view we have to be careful. I keep some cryptocurrency and I've kept it for a long time. Just, I bought it just in case that a customer needed it in the case of emergency. Because in reality, that's where we see a lot of it out there. You get hit with some type of ransom, they're not going to take your credit card. They're not going to give you a bank account to transfer it. And I will just, kind of end with this on the negotiation pieces. We had a client that came to us in November and they had all of their data stolen. So basically, there was a whole storm of things that went on that we fought off. And then a day later, every partner in this law firm got an email with pictures of their data. So a large amount of data was stolen. The bad guys had negotiated all this stuff. And in the end, they were very smart. $700,000 later in Bitcoin, they had to pay, and that was the insurance company that came up with it. And of course, it wasn't 700,000 exactly because the price of the Bitcoin fluctuated on that. And they had to figure out how to procure it, go out there and get it. So bad guys utilize the currency. In the case of, Kirk's case and a lot of other places, it's a good test. If I had a new cryptocurrency account, and again, you have to figure out what you're going to do. Are you going to open up a Coinbase account? Kirk did the right thing to go out there. You researched what would be the best, because like anything else, we all accept credit cards. Well, when we change the credit card processing company, we want to lower the fees. So here you have to understand, what the fees are, how quickly you can translate that into cash. And we find that a lot of people go out there and that's their first little test. I can't take, 1/100th of a Bitcoin to go pay for my Domino's pie. Hey, I might as well do a donation to one of you guys that are out there because you're out there. So we've been seeing that you might as well ride this while you could, because people want to do a test. And what better test is to give it to a good cause. But, when we talk about blockchain and we look at this, you might see the word blockchain in various other industries. And it really is a cool technology. I put something in a log and I pass it to the next guy. That guy passes the log. And the blockchain technology is used by a lot of other companies. So you have to separate the blockchain from that. Yes, this is the basis of how Bitcoin is. Think of it this way. The federal government is really the blockchain. They're printing the money and guaranteeing the money. This blockchain technology for each of that really shows the paths of where the Bitcoins came and went. And, very untraceable, unless it's a large, cache of money that's out there. You won't see, Colonial Pipeline last year was probably the only case that I ever saw that there was some transfers of Bitcoin and the federal government actually caught the bad guys. So, I think you just have to be cautious that are out there. And if you just go on to any of the websites and watch the fluctuations that are out there, I think, my investment philosophy has always been with some of these key stocks that are out there. When you look at we know they're going to come back. Sometimes you don't know if that Bitcoin is going to come back. So accept it, do what Kirk said, figure everything else that you have to do, and, figure out what the fees are, because again, there are fees in place there, and, dump it as quick as possible as you're accepting that. Because like I said, just watch it for a half hour one day and you'd be like, oh my God. And keep in mind, there's about $860 billion of Bitcoin out there in the marketplace. And that's just in Bitcoin. Each one of those are out there. So you kind of have to look at that and just be skeptical. Listen, I'm a big sports collector. I missed on, I looked at some of the NFT things, but for me, I want to show it in my office, give it to my kids. The digital stuff doesn't do anything for me, but that just shows you how the technology goes. So you just got to be aware.
So Michael, and I want to give Kirk back to you with a question too, but the way, again, I'm doing my 101 version. I don't know about the rest of you listening, but I'm understanding better and having more questions at the same time. So
Of course.
This is a complicated issue, I think, but to 101 it a little bit, it sounds like it's basically the more coins that people buy, the more the coins are worth. So it's the opposite of a rare collection. The value comes from the quantity, the more active users, the more people buying and trading, that's how the value goes up and down, correct?
Yesterday, Janet Yellen let a couple of things slip in a press conference and, Bitcoin went up to 18%, but then it fell back. because the federal government's starting to go back around. So if you Google it, you'll see that she said a couple of things that she wasn't supposed to say in some of the new federal government legislation that President Biden's going to put out. So again, there are fluctuations that are based upon, world events and things that are going out there. But you're right, Tesla himself went out there and bought and dumped things just to fluctuate some of those markets. But it isn't that much different than the stock market, right? You sit out there and you see these things go out, something comes in place, it'll jump high. But those ups and downs are swings that if you're an investor, you have to be able to stomach, because some of them are no rhyme or reason. I know my stock, I know my portfolio took a big hit in the past 10 days because of Ukraine. You might not know why Bitcoin just dropped 22%, and then you'll figure it out. So again, it's for the wary that's out there. It's a great way for you guys. And listen, for me, it's not my form of currency. Land Infotech won't be taking Bitcoin that are in place there. It's too volatile for us to manage it. I still use it as the currency of the bad guys. But for you guys, there are people that are more than willing to donate. I think Kurt could probably give a whole hour of how him and his board figured out what they were going to do, how they're going to do it. And I think if money is coming your way, you really should, Kurt, sounds like it's a whole event itself for what you guys did to help everyone else out here to just accept donations.
It was that, but also be comfortable with what you don't know. Because I will just speak bluntly, when we spoke to some of the people at the federal level concerning, what's the tax implications, they too were like, well, we're working on it. So it is an uncertain marketplace. And so I just need to know 4 things. 1, will the donation come to us? 2, will it get to US dollars quickly? 3, will it answer all of my tax questions? 4, will it pass my audit, right? And so I know the marketplace goes up and down like the stock itself. And God bless you, Michael. You were like, she made that slip in the press conference. There's a lot of those slips that happen in press conferences, and then you see the marketplace do like this. So at the end of the day, the investor is who we target. We target the investor, the person who's purchasing the Bitcoin, and we as a nonprofit can't do anything about the marketplace.
And the only thing I say is that, and again, I'm not an accountant, but basically the last piece that we did research on the IRS is if Michael Goldstein got Bitcoin as a great little gift, and I took Kurt's approach and cashed it in, and all of a sudden in my bank, another 100 grand shows up. Today it's taxed as property, not taxed as cash that's out there. So again, you have to understand how all of those pieces tie together, and that we don't know. We've all seen how the tax laws changed. So in reality, you have to designate what you're putting out there, understand the flow of it, and document it, and hope that our wonderful IRS doesn't change it into a different moving target, as we've seen in the past years.
And Kirk, I want to ask you one last question. We have something in chat from Joel, and it's a good question. We've got about 3 to 4 minutes left before we wrap it up today. But so Joel's question was, since we don't always know who the actual donor is, what if that donation comes from a shady donor, someone, it could be a potential PR issue, a reputation management issue, if you've accepted from a mystery donor? Did you talk about that? Is that a concern for you?
We literally beat that topic to death over here, because our donor could be from the middle of Brazil and has just a avatar, right? But the Giving Block has procedures in place, because that was one of the questions we asked them. Because again, Michael just said this is the currency of criminals, right? What is their filtering system on their end? And of course, they own the liability on the conversation and the agreement. We've made sure we read the agreement for that purpose, right? So that person is given through the Giving Block to Handy. So one of the lessons I learned as a CEO of a nonprofit is to always have a buffer when you have questions. And the buffer in the middle is the Giving Block, right? And so that is literally the way this thing is structured. The donation comes through the Giving Block, validated there, and then given to the organization. They're not giving it directly to me. I am not meeting them directly. I am marketing in a very large marketplace. Does that work? Does that work, Mr. Boo? I love saying your last name.
So, yes, do you have written policies that we can like glean from, otherwise steal and maybe look at?
Gleam and borrow, it's very similar to our stock policy when we get stock. So we stayed as close to that as possible. So what I'll do is I'll get that together and see if I could get it over to you, Raylene.
That would be great. And, you know, we've got 2 minutes left. I want to see if Jerry or Michael have a quick 30-second final thought to wrap up this topic. You know, I think for a nonprofit to accept it or not accept it may come down to, do you have the bandwidth like Kirk did to really research it and get involved in it and understand it and then explain it to your board and your donor base? There's a lot to this. So Jerry, if you have a quick 30-second wrap up.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind what the essence of what Kirk said, and that is that if I own Bitcoin and I decide to transfer Bitcoin from my wallet or from an exchange to somebody that calls themselves a not-for-profit, you're not going to know who I am. You're not going to know who I am because it's an anonymous network. So the fact that he has got that quote buffer in the middle, I don't know what that buffer is doing to validate the donor, and I don't want to know. That's not my job here. That's his job. But if you get an inquiry from somebody who sends you an email from an anonymous email and says, I want to donate $1 million to you in Bitcoin, and I just give me the address to which I give it, you're not going to know who it was that sent it to you. That's just important to know.
And you know, it is the in thing. You know, who would think that the AAA is now the FTX? Who would think that the Staples Center is crypto.com? You know, the third most set of commercials that were during the Super Bowl were crypto type things. It's the in thing, but no one really thinks about, you know, just like Kirk having a buffer. You know, and it is no different than political contributions. Sometimes we don't know until it's pointed out, but even worse, because the whole point of the cryptocurrency is the majority of the people want to remain anonymous for whatever reasons. And I don't want to keep using the criminal word that's out there, but you know, there's a lot of good things that are out there, and companies like FTX and crypto.com really do make it easier for those people that do want to quote invest in a way with higher fees. So understand what your pieces are. You know, Kurt, I commend you and your board for doing all those pieces to get that in place. It's hard to turn down quote free money, but again, we all want it to be clean money.
That is a great place to end it, even though Robert, I know we could keep going. Kirk, thank you so much and congratulations on setting that up and kind of being one of the leading organizations in nonprofit in South Florida, Broward County nonprofits that are using and accepting crypto. Jerry Zarnecki, thank you for joining us. And Michael Goldstein, thank you. Sarah, I think she's still with us. Sarah, we'll look forward to your programs, the free STEM programs for children, 8-week programs coming up. Robert, next month, April, we think we're in person. What do we think? We'll close with that.
We're fingers crossed so we can avoid these technology issues.
And Robert, if you need a breakfast sponsor for the first one back of the year, just definitely look at me because I know we'll be there for you guys anyway.
Oh, thank you, Raylene, and I are very, very appreciative of that.
I think I was yapping there with my mic off, guys. So we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Kirk.
Guys,
Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you in April.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.